Hey, 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 hey. All right, y'all, we back again for another one. Yes, it's the Renewing of the Mind show and podcast with none other than Crystal Jordan. You already know how we do it. We come with all of this creative thoughts with these different mindsets, helping individuals transform the way that they think, the way that they do things, helping individuals identify the areas that they have been battling in so that they may be strengthened in. And so we have an amazing thought leader coming before us today, none other than Mr. Antoine Jackson. I want to put respect on his name. He's Apostle Antoine Jackson. And so we're so excited to have Mr. Jackson with us today. And I'm going to bring him on. Come on.
Hey,
Hey,
good day.
hey.
Hey, you lit,
How
huh?
you doing?
Good. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here today.
Come on, we're excited to have you here with us today. I'm so excited because there's so much that I want to talk about today. And I just kind of want to make sure that I don't go overboard because I got so many thoughts in my mind of things and questions that I want to ask you, especially about creatives. I think sometimes people have, can you hear me?
Yep, I sure can.
Okay. I think sometimes when it comes to a creative mindset, many have thought that the creative is like a someone that's kind of crazy. Yeah, we are kind of crazy in a good way, in a real good way. But in any case, I think some people have not identified or been able to really step out and be who they have been called to be because they doubt or deny that creative in them. And so
Mhm.
before going there, I want you to kind of give a little background of yourself, where you're from. I was actually going to do it myself, but I said, no, let me let him introduce himself to these individuals that are on the podcast today and those that'll be chiming in so that they'll know how to find you if they're looking for you and information about you, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Well, again, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your podcast and the conversation today. My name is Antoine Jackson. I am the founding pastor of the Equation Church in St. Louis, Missouri, and the senior pastor of the City of Hope International Church here in San Diego, California. I have just recently relocated here to California since Memorial Day weekend, so I'm adjusting.
Come on.
I am a father, and I'm also the author of a book called The Creative Leader, who said creatives couldn't
Woo-hoo.
be bosses. And
Right.
I'm known as the creative leader, especially in the church standpoint, because I've always been one to push the envelope, to not believe in the status quo, and to believe that we can innovate industries and innovate and be forward thinking in everything that we do. And so that's why I do what I do. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website at AntoineJackson.com, or you can find me on all socials at Antoine Jackson.
All right. So now that we have got that out the way, because I know usually we leave that for the end, but it's good to get it out the way in the beginning so that nobody needs to go back and look it up. But we have an amazing man of God here that is able to, he's been really going inside out, making sure that individuals are identifying how to express themselves, how to walk in the full capacity of being creatives. And I kind of watched him on the sidelines do his thing, and what he does is he does it so amazingly. Sometimes we never know who's watching us. But when I'm watching, I'm looking, especially when God shows me people, he shows me like different things about them and how to choose them when it comes to the Renewing of the Mind show and podcast. And so sometimes I'm just kind of outside and I'm like, okay, God, what is it that you need me to pay attention to? And so one of the things that I love about you is I love that the way that you teach. I love the way that you go into the mindset of an individual and you begin to break down the word in such a magnificent way that it makes them step outside of themselves to be able to say, you know what, I can really do what God is calling me to do without having to get into this box or without having to fit in to a status quo. And I love that about the way that you do your teachings and the way that you speak on different levels of the word of God. And so the first question I want to ask you is for that creative that has felt as if they are too much for when it comes to whether it's ministry, when it comes to social media, when it comes to, and you can start or pinpoint it from whichever direction you want to, but from the standpoint of being able to really step outside of the box, those creatives that have felt boxed in, or have tried to fit in the status quo, but they're so urging to want to burst out because they have so much more to give the world. What is it that you can speak to them about today?
Yeah, I think it's important for every creative to understand that you are in a world that values conformity, not individuality, not eclectic ideas, not specificity. This is a world that values cookie cutter ideology. Do it a particular way so that you don't look odd, and we call it professionalism. Okay, that's that, because it's like if you were to ask the question of what does it mean to be a professional, to me, a professional is a person that is at the top of their class in a particular mindset, ideology, industry, and these persons have perfected the discipline to actually be in a space to help other people become that, or to see their potential. But oftentimes our ideology of conformity is to get people to stay the same and not stand out. And that's what I want every creative to understand. Anytime insecurity sees confidence, they will only define it as arrogance. So they're going to say to you, you're doing the most, because most of those people don't have the confidence to step out and to find out who they truly are.
That's good that you say that, because I think that we as individuals, even when it comes to the body of believers, have gotten so used to fitting into this status quo that there is an issue with stepping out of the box to be fully who you are. Because if I dress and maybe wear certain colors, then that means that I don't really fit the status quo of what it looks like to dress up and fit in. And I really like the fact that one of the things that I deal with, and I used to deal with this when I was younger, but I was very out in the open when it came to colors and dressing up, is I don't care how I dress before people. And I think sometimes we get this idea that, oh, if I wear a dress, it has to be this earth tone color, or it has to be this tone color. And I don't know how I got over here, but I'm going to keep going that way anyway. But we'll try to fit a certain type of status quo by wearing a certain color. That color means that, okay, I fit in the room. And, a lot of men and women, we love the color black, or we would use the color black in order to fit a certain arena. But when it comes to being able to be a creative, something I love about creatives is we know how to bring pops of color in anything.
Yes.
I think that some people shy away from that, though, because they felt like that hinders them from being able to really show who they've been called to be. And what I mean by that is that sometimes people are shy away from the colors that they really like to really fit in with somebody by just wearing black. Oh, this calms down the tone and they won't really see me for who I am. But not seeing who you are, then that really don't show who you are. I want you to kind of touch bases on the insecurities that many creatives deal with when it comes to being able to think outside the box.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you say that, because if you were in my environment and in my world, you will always see pops of color somewhere, even in the way that I design our churches, like my office. Look, you see my pop of color, you're if you see it in my shoes, you're going to see it all around me, because there is an expression that I need in my environment that makes my creativity come alive.
That's right.
I say that because a lot of creatives deal with rejection issues, and because of the rejection, they internalize the projections that come at them from people and oftentimes environments. I mean, and in the faith environment, we that was sometimes our cardinal sin, that if somebody looked very different, expressed things different, then what we would do is try to tell them that they weren't in unity, as if unity meant uniformity. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
that being in unity is around a common mission, a common aim. It does not mean we have to look alike, talk alike. wear the same thing to look like we're in unity.
Mhm.
So I think that creatives deal with the insecurity because if they are not around other creatives that reinforce for them that it's okay to be different, oftentimes we're in environments and around people that don't know how to even deal with somebody that is different.
Mhm.
And so you become the center of their projections and their insecurities. And you do have to have a high level of emotional intelligence if you're going to really continue to give birth to creativity, because most people don't like different. They want you to
That's
conform.
that's true. I like that you went there and you said giving birth to creativity, because a lot of times what hinders people from bringing forth whatever it is that they were created to do, they hold that birthing back because they feel like, oh, nobody else is doing it, or oh, too many people are doing it, but nobody's really doing it like the individual that is that creator that's going to put their twist on top of it. What would you say to that individual that has that thought process to say, you know what, I've created something and I have this idea of something that I really want to do, but I see other people doing it, but mine has this bit of twist to it, but I don't want to bring it forth because somebody else is doing it. They're just not doing it in the way that I'm doing it. What would you say to
Sure.
that individual?
Well, you know what I would say to them is this: McDonald's doesn't care about what Wendy's is doing, and they're right across the street from each other. Family Dollar and Dollar General don't care about what they're doing because they're right across the street from each other. You can look at all of these other industries, and they present their twist, because although the outward expression may look similar to somebody else, the value may not. The
Come on.
values may be different. And so you have to know that if I'm presenting something, it's coming from a particular place, and the values that I'm assigning to my expression is very different than the one that may do it similar to me. And so I would say to them, don't get into imposter syndrome and don't get in your head to believe that you're copycatting. That
Uh-huh.
if you were the person that was able to bring something to inception completely different than everybody else, then God bless you for being an anomaly.
Come
But
on.
most people still, in certain ways, are in the same ballpark,
Mhm.
just different versions or different expressions. And it's okay for you to give birth to a different expression. It's
Right.
okay. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
I got different types of pens on my table right now. They're
Cool.
pens,
Yeah.
but I use them for two totally different things.
Mhm.
So your creativity, your expression, although may looking similar to somebody else, can still be used for something totally different.
That's good. Another thing I want to hit back on, because you talked about rejection, especially for the creative. I know because I'm a creative and I definitely dealt with rejection, and some of the issues of the rejection sometimes stems from us being youth, because we've had people try to box us in from young childhood levels to try to keep us in a place where we don't step out. But I found that, I found out on my own journey, and this is just kind of a personal testimony of trying to combat and look at those areas of rejection, that I had to step to the plate and say, I don't care what nobody really thinks about how I'm coming, as long as I'm still serving God and I'm still coming out to do what I know that I'm called to do. So I had to overcome that thought of even being worried about being in the rooms where people didn't really receive me, or being in areas where my ideas may have not been good to them. But as long as I identified that those ideas that I had needed to come out, I had to birth them out, because it was something about it being on the inside of me that frustrated. I need to get this thing out of me. When it comes to and I'm going somewhere with what I'm asking. I know I kind of gave a little testimonial in that, but in any case, what I'm saying is for those that have felt rejected, outside of them not only coming out to show forth their idea, the ability to get around those other creatives, stepping outside of themselves, because some people, because of those rejection issues, have dealt with insecurities about even being in the room with other creatives. What would be something you could tell them about going into that room, whether it be to do it afraid, whether it's to do it, and what would be something that you can give them as push to make them really want to step in that room outside of being worried about them being rejected, or try in order to help them overcome. I'm sorry, in order to help them overcome that rejection.
Yeah. Consider that whatever your gift is, your ability is, your distinction is something that somebody needs. And when you actually position your creativity as a value add, then
Mhm.
you'll find yourself not looking for personal affirmation when somebody may see you as different. So it's actually a repositioning of your perspective when you go into those spaces, that I have
Yeah.
something that I want to contribute, and it's something that you need. And I'm going to position my creativity that way so that I'm not, it's like giving, and I want to say this in a way where they
It,
understand that it's not that I'm going in there looking for personal affirmation of what I have to offer.
Mhm.
It is actually going into a room going, they're hungry and I just bought them food.
Come on. Come
So
on. I like
there,
that.
you see what I'm saying? So I'm positioning my creativity as a value add to the space that I'm in.
Mhm.
So that I don't, so when they say, oh, well, you know what, I'm not hungry, I don't take it personal. I'll eat it then.
That's right. You better come on and
Because
give
it
them the
works.
full course
Yeah,
meal.
it works for me. It
Yes.
works for me. My
That's
creativity, I'm not bringing it for your affirmation.
that's
That's
right.
that's to my master I stand and to my master I fall.
Come on.
But I
That's
want to
good.
make sure that I am positioning what I have as a value add and as a servant to you.
I I'm glad you said it in that way, because I think sometimes we're so busy trying to present it as something that we're waiting for an affirmation for, when it's not really that you're coming to ask them or get affirmation for that thing from them. It's more of, I'm coming to give you a full course meal, and it's either you want it or you don't, because you don't have to accept this meal, but somebody's going to accept it that is in need of what I have to offer, pretty much. And so I love the way that you said that, because I think many people, it's not just even in the creative arena, have taken the initiative to feel as if they have to put on for somebody else to receive what they're giving. And
Correct.
instead of having to put on or give it to someone, you don't have to box it, make it look pretty, or any of that stuff. Well, you still want to make sure that you come in the right package of who you are. But what I'm stating is you don't have to put any extras on top of that, because what you come with, whoever is needing it is going to want it anyway. I love the way that you said that, though. Um, Another thing I want to have you talk about is dealing with creatives, especially in your book, The Creative Thinker. What is some things that you can talk to our creatives about when it comes to transforming their mindset? Because you talked about perspective, and I do understand that there are certain levels or certain places and situations that we have to shift our perspective, because if not, what we do is we hinder our progress and how we need to bring forth that thing that's on the inside of us. Can you give us some little nuggets on being able to shift that perspective when it comes to the creative thinker?
Yes. One of the things that I always encourage creatives with is personal development,
Mhm.
because I feel like so many creatives struggle with self-neglect, that they're so busy trying to produce that they don't realize that if you don't put back information into your mind that actually makes you self-aware, then it affects the quality of what you actually will give birth to. And so I always try to tell creatives about the environment. And the way that I want to say that is your personal life ecosystem. That
Uh-huh.
personal development is feeding your mind, your body, and your soul with quality environments, quality experiences, quality people that continue to mature you as a person. Because as you work on making sure that you are mature as a person, it will disconnect from you your who and your who and your do.
Mhm.
So you won't be defined by what you do.
That's
That's
good.
I'm giving that as fruit to you.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
But who I am, I'm secure in myself. I'm secure in my own identity. I like myself. I like my personality. I like my quirks. Like, and I don't, and because I have self-awareness, then it doesn't affect me when somebody rejects the gift of the fruit that I'm trying to give them. Here's why. A tree doesn't get mad that you don't take its fruit. A tree will watch a fruit drop to the ground and watch it die, but because of the ecosystem of the tree, it will continue to produce more fruit. That's why I'm trying to get creatives to focus on their personal ecosystem, because when you focus on your personal ecosystem, you will continue to produce even if people don't bite.
Come on. That's good.
Because there's going to be, at some point, because of the law of sowing and reaping, somebody's going to bite.
Yes,
so you just have to make sure that you are prepared and ready for that, and don't allow your mind to be locked into an old paradigm that's keeping you out of productivity in your own life. So personal development is something I'm always pushing creatives to think about and to grow in, so they don't get locked in a prison.
That's good. When you said their personal ecosystem, when it comes to making sure that their personal ecosystem is intact and producing, what would be some of the things you would tell them that they need to include in that personal ecosystem in order to produce?
Yes, I believe that we have three main appetites. And those three main appetites, the scripture, talks about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. Okay.
Yes.
So lust means a lack of self-control. Lust does not mean a desire for. Lust just simply means a lack of self-control. So that means you have the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, the things your feelings, the things you see, and the pride of life, your affirmation and your standing in society and in community. So it shows us that those are things that do need to be fed. These are things that you just don't need to lust after. And so what I'm always trying to encourage creatives about in their personal ecosystem is to set aside time. And my goal is to have a tithe of every day for personal development, which is mental strengthening, physical strengthening, going to the gym, getting outside, getting my environment together so that my body is physically intelligent, and then my spiritual intelligence. Okay, so I'm telling them there are three intelligence: your mental intelligence, your physical intelligence, your soulish intelligence, your spiritual intelligence. Because as I keep my spiritual ecosystem clean, that's why you want to get rid of bitterness and strife and get rid of rejection, because that affects your spiritual ecosystem, where it can keep you from hearing from your creator. Because he can give you ideas and concepts and mindsets and paradigms that you can give birth to in the world. Same way with your physical body. You want your body to be healthy so that you can actually pour out what has been deposited into you. And then you want your mind to be healthy, because you want to make sure that as a man thinks in his heart, so is the man. So you want to make sure that your identity is intact, so that when you do get into a hard world, you don't find yourself depressive. You don't find yourself fighting with all of these issues that are keeping you from fully showing up healthy.
I like that you said that the dealing with the mindset, because back into this being the Renewing of the Mind show and podcast, many times when it comes, especially to creatives, one of the things I've noticed about creatives is we deal with a lot of battles in the mind to hold us back. Individuals, period, deal with mind battles. That's on all around the board. But when it comes to creatives, something that hinders creatives from being able to dig into their creativity is that it's kind of like when writers get the writer's block.
Yes.
For creatives, we get that creative block that it comes to us, and it hinders us from actually being able to be creative. Kind of like when you spoke about your environment, the way you have the green and the different pops of color, because that excites your brain. It stimulates you. It gives you the opportunity to say, okay, I'm here. This is what needs to get done. This is how I need to do it. This is what I'm expecting out of it. And I want to say, for the creative, there are creatives that have, I do apologize. There are creatives that have missed out on being able to do that, because they may not be in the best environment depending on whether it be their living arrangements, depending on whether it be the funding that they have available to them currently. Because I think sometimes because of our current circumstances, we hinder our ability to really step out the box. What I'm leading to is saying this: when it comes to the creative thinker, the mindset, if we don't wake up sometimes, automatically helping the mindset be able to change, going back to the perspective and what you begin to talk about being able to change our perspective, we cause ourselves to be hindered with that creative block. What would be something for a creative that you could tell them that during maybe a certain season in your life that caused you to kind of have that creative block, but then you did something, an example of something that you did to turn that thing back on and say, hold on, no, I'm going to get this creative these creative juices back flowing so I can get this thing out.
Well, I take up the rest of your podcast, if I
That's
if I
all
told
right.
you that.
Come on.
But I knew that when I was going through a certain season, I needed to change hobbies. One of my friends told me, was like, you're so busy concentrating on this over here that your brain needs an outlet to think about something else. And so this is when I picked up urban photography. That I would just go out, take walks, and just find the most abstract things and just started taking pictures. Because it was as I was out thinking on something else, then certain things would jog. Oh, hey, write about this. Hey, you need to talk about that. So being over here did produce over there. I'm in a space in my life where I literally just left my entire hometown, the place I was born and raised in, 40 plus years of my life, and then just gone.
Wow.
And gone. And it's materialized so many other things in me. The peace that I have, the clarity that I have to even be able to talk to you today, the clarity that I have because a location will do it and people are afraid to move. They just won't move. Like, okay, maybe you don't want to move your hometown yet, but change your apartment. Change the colors. You know what I'm saying? Open the blinds instead of having things like start making small changes that trigger you to start to think different. And those have been extremely helpful for me. And I think that's why I'm able to have this conversation with you today, because that's been a real part of my life.
Come on, that's good. I think sometimes we get in this, and I've been known to do it myself, box ourselves in as creatives because we think that boxing, closing up sometimes it helps us to think, but actually closing up sometimes, depending on what it is that you're trying to do in the circumstances, whether it's writing the book, whether it's teaching the class, whether it's doing the videography, photography, whatever the case may be, it can actually hinder us from being able to have that source of thinking outside the box. It's kind of like when you go to the beach or something like that. This is what I'm picking up from what you just said. It's like when you go outside and you change scenery, you're not at the shop. Like for me, I'm at the shop. It's not at the shop now where I'm at the beach. And so I see some people walking up the street. Now I can get a whole picture of me doing something else, and it helps to allow that to spring forth something else, a new idea, maybe something that I could say, I could bring this to the shop. It can be incorporated. And so I thank you for that, because many times we don't open up, we don't expand our borders, we don't begin to look outside of what we're used to. And that perspective changes definitely, is especially moving. I think that's also been a fear for some people when it comes to being a creative, being able to step outside of the box to move. And sometimes moving is the answer. Sometimes your environment, you've been staying there too long, and it is time to go because you've been boxed in, and it's kept you bound also from being able to see what you have, what your worth is. It's kind of like in scripture where it talks about the prophet being unable to being unable to, and look, I know exactly what I want to say, not being accepted in his own town. When we're not accepted in our own town, sometimes you got to change scenery in order to get outside of the box and do what you need to do. And so I say that with saying this and then kind of closing out the conversation. There have been many creatives that have sat on the backside as if they're waiting on affirmations from somebody to identify them. What would you say to that creator that has been waiting on that those affirmations from other individuals and that have been holding back their creativity? I know I asked this a similar question in the beginning, but I want to kind of lead back into this because many creatives have held back something that may be a miracle to somebody else's company or business, or to someone's ministry, or to someone's movie, or to whatever the next arena that they need to be pushed in, because they have not changed their perspective, or because they have not stepped outside of the box to go somewhere else, because they're used to their own community, they're used to their own church, they're used to certain things that they have not stepped out and said, hold on, it is a whole big world out here and I could do something so much different. What else would you say to them about your move that has not only triggered you, uh, or not triggered you, but has caused that peace, has caused that new ideas, uh, fresh thoughts? What would you be able to say to them at this moment to kind of
Sure.
push them out of their comfort zone? Because that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is this: adjusting their expectations of how things are supposed to end. Most don't start because they're so busy trying to measure the end.
Mhm.
And I'm always trying to tell creatives they have to start starting and stop. They have to start starting. So it's like they spend
That's
all their
good.
time stopping starting
Yes, it's true.
instead of starting.
That's good.
Instead of trying to calculate the end result, they need to adjust their expectations that really you shouldn't look for affirmation until you have produced fruit.
Mhm. That's
And
good.
when people actually respect the fact that you have the discipline to produce something, that's when they will affirm you.
That's good.
Most people won't affirm your potential because your potential is something that you have to actualize. When you actualize your potential, then people then will affirm the end result. But if you're so busy trying to affirm you at the very beginning, you didn't produce the fruit for somebody to say that's worth the affirmation.
That's
And
good.
so that's what I'm saying about adjusting expectations. That we want the affirmation, then we will do. It is therefore no. It is I produce, and on the level of my production, you should see that the quality of what I produce will show you that I have enough discipline to
That's
be
right.
respected.
I like that.
People respect discipline, and I wrote about this in my book. Like what makes Michael Jordan amazing? It wasn't the dunks that he did.
Come
No, it
on.
was the fact that Michael Jordan was out there at 5 o'clock in the morning shooting free throws.
Mhm.
So what made the highlight reel were the dunks.
Right.
But the reason why he's really respected and why all of us wear his shoes is because for some odd reason we believe that when I put on his shoes, it
Yes.
superimposes his discipline on me for me to
Yes.
produce what he produced.
Come on.
That's the psychology of what I'm trying to say to the creative. Be spending your time shooting the free throws. The dunks are the highlight reels.
That's right. You better come on. I think that many people have missed out on identifying that discipline, it keeps you in such a place
Yes.
and I love that you talked about the stop starting, because I was one of those that stopped started many times because I kept feeling like, oh my God, I'm messing up. Okay, I didn't do this right. Okay, let me go back and get this done. Okay, let me go back and get that done. Okay, let me make sure to do it this way. And what happens with the stop starting it hinders you from being able to have things that have already been completed, because you're stopping and starting, you hinder the completion of whatever it is that needs to come forth. And instead of just making sure that I'm disciplined and getting this thing done, not only just getting it done, but making sure that it's pouring out what I need to put into it. Like you saying with Michael Jordan, a lot of us would be making dunks. A lot of us would be creating reels that are memorable. instead of it just being Michael Jordan. I love that. And especially with this being the year of the Jordan, the 23, I think many people need to remember that and know that, and understanding Michael Jordan was very disciplined, and knowing that creatives, in order to make sure to see the manifestation of what they're looking for, they got to make sure that discipline is a key. I heard you say, you talked about the perspective, you talked about the personal life ecosystem, being able to bring these things into a whole and have those necessary steps in order to get it done. That discipline will make sure that they bring forth great fruit. And so there won't be nothing missing, lacking, or broken, because they have stayed the course in identifying, hold on, my mindset needs to be whole, my body needs to be whole, my spirit man needs to be whole. And if I'm making sure to do all of these things, it's going to fall in place no matter what comes my way. I'm going to be disciplined enough to make sure to get back on top of it, even if I have some kind of disturbance in there. Let's find out if you have anything else that you want to say before we get ready to chime out, that you would leave a creative, let's say, for instance, an individual that may just look and say, well, for me and my circumstances, I'm encountering this, but I'm looking at you as a creative that have done so many amazing things. What would you tell me in order to keep me standing to completion of what it is that I'm called to do?
I believe that one of Satan's ultimate goals is detachment. I believe his goal is to get you to detach from your creator, the ultimate creator, because if you detach from the ultimate creator, then you won't have the source for living and the source for your creativity. Everything that God made, he made that it was to stay connected to the place that he spoke to it. You'll find that in Genesis 1. And the reason why Genesis 1 is so impactful to me is because I see how God aimed his speech at everything that he created. Yes. And when God wanted something, he aimed his speech at the place he wanted it to stay connected to. And if it stays connected to that place, it lives. Right. I believe that so many creatives have gotten away from God. And because they've gotten away from God and their awareness of that they're made in the God class, that they oftentimes will just rely on the strength of their humanity to produce great things. And you can't do that. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And so for me, because I stay connected to God, not from a religious standpoint, so I'm not trying to preach religion. I hate religion. That's not my ideology at all about God. It is the fact that I'm in relationship with him as my father, which is the ultimate source of affirmation. I believe what my father says about me, ultimate source of information. See, his word is made flesh. So I believe it. And because I believe him, it produces in my life. And so I have just learned that I'm going to work hard and wrestle to stay connected to God. And I'm going to live the life that he put me in the earth to connect and to connect those parts. And it has caused productivity in my life.
That's good. And the goal right there is he's making sure that God's stamp of approval is on everything that he touches and does. Mm-hmm. And so that means whatever God's stamp of approval is on, it's going to produce anyway. So I would say back to those creatives, take these nuggets and make sure you stand on them, because one of the things that we have forgotten to do is make sure that God is the head of everything that we touch, everything that we do, and everything that we are making sure to produce in this earth realm. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to chime out of here. And I know we already gave his information, but I want to thank you again, Mr. Antoine Jackson, for coming on and allowing us to pick your brain on what it is to renew the mind as a creative thinker, how to stand bold in who we have been called to be, and how to continue to run on and finish what we have on the inside of us and not give up, because many creatives have been in that place where they've been backed against a wall. And I thank you, and make sure that, ladies and gentlemen, as you're listening in, that you begin to go to Amazon, or where exactly can we find your book? On Amazon as well as your website. Give us those details.
You can find my book at AntoineJackson.com, or you can go to Amazon and you can find and search The Creative Leader and you'll find it there.
All right, so make sure you go in and find out about the book Creative Thinker, and it's something that we need to do as a whole because I don't think we support each other enough. And I actually want you guys to make sure to support Mr. Jackson because not only is he a creative thinker, but everything that he is speaking about, it is not only helping individuals, it is taking them to new levels if they stay the course and listening to the instructions that God is pouring out of him in order to help us be equipped with what is needed for this dispensation in time. There are not many leaders that are teaching on the thinking. And when we come to teach on thinking and being creative with it, you want to make sure that you don't just push it away, but that you step outside of the box and get to that place where God can pour out of you what he's placed on the inside of you and not hold it in. Because many people have gone to the grave holding in secrets and things that needed to be poured out because of being afraid of what's on the inside of them. Don't be afraid. Let's step out the box and let's get this thing done. With that being said, I'm thankful for you all joining us on the Renewing of the Mind show and podcast with another word. And today we talked about what creative thinkers and thinking outside of the box, but making sure that you're identifying the creative thinker in you. How do you do that? Go back and make sure you give somebody else these nuggets so they can chime into the podcast. Love on you all. God bless you and may you have a good one. Once again, thank you for joining.